Welcome to the Crawcast. I'm your host, George Krawczak, and today we are looking at one of my more controversial opinions that there should only be one main event of WrestleMania. I'm talking about this because it was just announced on SmackDown that the main event of night one of WrestleMania will be Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns versus CM Punk in a triple threat. And people are talking about Roman Reigns breaking the WrestleMania record because he's main eventing this one, and he main evented both night one and night two of last year. And CM Punk is getting his first WrestleMania main event, and I'm arguing that I do not think this should count. And the reason I'm arguing this is because WrestleMania, or I think everyone can acknowledge that the main event is the final match at WrestleMania. And I don't think that's arguable. And this will not be the final match of WrestleMania. This will be, the sixth match out of 12. And I think the biggest reasoning in this is if you look at WrestleMania 41, for example, it was broken into two parts, but it's still one show. It's not at WrestleMania 40. It wasn't WrestleMania 40 and 41. No, it was just all WrestleMania 40. Yes, it was broken up into two parts, but that doesn't make it two separate shows. It's still just one show. And I'd kind of compare that a little bit to like watching a play, whereas sometimes on a play you get intermission, but that doesn't mean when you come back from the intermission you're watching a completely separate play. You're still watching the same thing. So it's just like you're having a 10-hour intermission between the match cards. So I don't really think you can argue that it's two separate shows. It is just one show that is looking at what the main event is, and the main event is the final match of that show, and that's why everyone was talking about Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, because that was the final match of last year's WrestleMania, not Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns and The Rock. And I think there's other arguments that really don't make sense. Like, for example, you might argue, okay, well, they sell different tickets to the different shows. And yes, they do sell different tickets for night one and night two, even though most people buy it as a package and watch both nights. But at WrestleMania 2, they had three separate shows. They had a New York, a Chicago, and I think, Los Angeles version of each show. And each show was main evented by Mr. T versus Roddy Piper, the Dream Team, Greg Valentine, and uh, uh, Brutus Beefcake versus Dynamite Kid and British Bulldog, and then Hulk Hogan versus King Kong Bundy. But not a single person recognizes the Dream Team versus the British Bulldog and Dynamite Kid and Roddy Piper versus Mr. T as main events. It's only Hulk Hogan versus King Kong Bundy that's recognized as the main event because it is the final match on the show, even though there are multiple locations of the show. And then I think you can also argue, well, they take place on two separate days, so what does that matter? Well, I think you have to look back at WrestleMania 35. That show did not end until after midnight, so technically, Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair took place on the following day. And so on night one, you would have the Intercontinental Championship main event, which is Bobby Lashley versus Finn Balor, and on night two, you would have the women's triple threat. And I don't think anybody would recognize the Finn Balor versus Bobby Lashley as a main event of WrestleMania. So, in conclusion, I think there's only one main event to WrestleMania, and that is John Cena versus Cody Rhodes. It is the final match on the card, and even though the show takes place over 2 days, it is one continuous match card. Think of it, instead of watching WrestleMania for 8 hours straight, you're just watching 4 hours and then 4 hours with a little break in between. It is all one show, it is all one match card, and there are not two separate main events. It's just one main event, which is Cody Rhodes and John Cena, because that is the last match on the show. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you like this type of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button like it owes you money, and I'll see you on the next one.